recently spent some big money on some Warhams. We're both starting brand spanking new 40k armies. And since we're starting at the exact same time from scratch with these boxes, we figured we'd do a little escalation league, do it together. We're on the bleeding edge of Warhammer 40,000. Kroot is a new army, and Emperor's Children is a new army. Has Emperor's Children ever been an army before?
Like in 1992, kind of, as part of Chaos Space Marines.
I mean, people have always painted their Chaos Space Marines pink.
Right.
Now there's just an official reason to with the book. And kind of the same with Kroot. Kroot have always kind of been around. They used to have a lot of Forge World stuff, but now they're real. They're real Krooty. Today is gonna be all about discovery. We're gonna paint up a couple of things, but really we're gonna figure out colors and bases. I don't really have any colors and bases. I've got ideas, but I don't have a scheme in mind. What have you got?
Well, I'm thinking I'm gonna do it like how they look in this mod for Dawn of War. So I've been playing it for a few years and I love the classic like pink and black color scheme, but with some red and green highlights to make it nice and interesting. And I also have some printed bases that I found that I really love. So I'm gonna paint those up too.
I've actually already been cheating because yesterday I put together this sucker. This is the Ktox Rider, and it's not my first Ktox Rider. This mini is lovely, and the refresh of the Crruit has been excellent and very unexpected from Games Workshop. I have a smattering of old Crruit that I bought for Kill Team and ended up buying and painting more just because I like them. I have the old Ktox Rider, and yep, he's old. I really like this mini, but seeing him alongside the new, I gotta give it to the new one. Although the size isn't far off, I can totally use the old guy in my new army, and I have plenty of the old Crruits. These guys have lost me many a game of Kill Team, but hopefully they can do better in 40k. And they're only a little bit shorter comparing them to some of my new Crruits that I got from the used shelf at my friendly local game store. And I've picked up some other kits as well, some Tau allies in the anime robots, and this exciting mini, the store birthday Tau Ethereal. And I almost forgot, I got another Tau model I'm very excited for, the Crruit Trail Shaper. I got it from Valhalla Hobby, the same place Sean picked up the Emperor's Children box. If any of you guys are looking to pick up some Warhammer or other wargaming stuff, check out Valhalla Hobby and use our code EOB or use the link in the description for a discount. I have a lot of painting to do, and I bought some new paints to do it with. I got some enamel paints to try out, and this Turbo Dark Ultra Shiny Silver that's got me excited. I made Sean print me up a handful of epic basing bits. I'm going desert for my hunting pack. And I think I'm gonna start with the bases. I got lucky and my Kroot popped off his old 40 base, so I can put him onto the bigger 50 base, and I started out by giving my guy some cork towers, doing some tiers of 1/8 inch cork. I made some marks where the feet go with a paint pen so I can keep adding more cork and I'll know right where the mini's feet wanna stand. I added a few more pieces of rough 1/2 inch cork, and to hide the corkiness, I wanna try something new, wood filler. This stuff is really soft and spreadable, and cork is wood, so this should be the perfect material to get a windswept desert look. I used some sand paste to put over the low spots, and now for the epic bits. I superglued these into place, and they do a good job of turning the yellow pasty cork into a convincing desert. Pretty good, right?
Pretty good.
I was a little worried about the wood putty, but it seems like it's hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you got for your bases?
Oh, well, I did my bases too. What do you think?
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
I printed them myself, one layer at a time.
These bases do look really good. They're from Zabavka Workshop, the Ruined Empire, and if you guys agree that they look really cool and want to pick up a set, you can find them printed for you on our website, EonsOfBattle.com. Base your army alongside Sean and see who finishes first. On our website, you'll also find merch and memberships, the best way to support us. Each month, members get a credit that they can use on our new monthly terrain packs or any previous pack we have ever made. This April, we're going hard into skirmish fantasy warfare with 3 themes. The Mythical Forest, a set of fantastical trees held aloft by otherworldly levitating stones and waterfalls with the power of life. The Eternal Graveyard, a desolate shrine to the forces of death, macabre headstones piled against the last remnants of a long-forgotten cemetery, and the Cannibal Camp, a ramshackle encampment where the marauders can divide up their spoils and cook up their victims. These sets are designed with storytelling in mind and are the right size and shape for games to spearhead. You can match the theme to your army, making your beloved collection look good while dominating the battlefield. These sets are available on our website as STLs, and don't worry if you don't have a 3D printer, they're available physically, printed for you.
The Lord Exultan is the Chaos Lord for the Tormentors and the Infractors, and he has tons of different weapon options. Mastercrafted everything, fists, spears, swords, and a bunch of decorative options. I know I want the big Slaneshi symbol on the back, and the good head. Gluing this guy together, I decided to go with the Power Fist and Screamer Pistol loadout. This is the hardest you can get this guy to hit, with a once per game 8 Power Fist punches. The Screamer Pistol will easily pick up 2 to 3 Crruit a turn. Not that I'm list tailoring or anything. It looks right at home next to the Noise Marines. Gluing on the rest of his bits, he was taking shape. The biggest question left was his head. This decision was much easier. I'm not feeling this one at all. Sticking on his loincloth with lots of glue, putting on the good head, my lord is ready to go.
Is that the guy?
Yes.
Ooh. I remember you declared very definitively Phoenix Spear and Plasma Pistol, and then you paused, and then you went and you did the Screamer Pistol Power Fist.
That's how it always is.
Is this the best loadout for Crruit?
I think so, because the Screamer Pistol has strength 5.
Three shots,
and
yeah.
3 shots, so, and D2.
That's not bad. Oh, and he also has a Plasma Pistol on his butt.
He does.
He's technically WYSIWYG for several different loadouts. You in the time it took you to build this guy, I got halfway through 5 Crruit bases, and I got more to do. That's gonna be the story of this army. The problem I'm running into with these Crruit are their tiny little feetsies. I don't see any other way than pinning each and every Crruit foot. I really like how my bases are looking though, so I'm just coming to terms with eventually needing to build 100 of these. I drilled all the gun barrels and I have some Crruity Fruities ready. For this first try, I'm going with 5 Crruit Carnivores and 2 Ktox Riders. I feel like this will give me a good little baby army of Crruit so I can see how the colors look in an army setting. And the Ktox Rider kit comes with some extra quills. I threw these onto my old Ktox and used green stuff to try and make it look a little less slapped on. It's a little silly looking, but the old guy does look a little silly. I've been collecting this army for months now, and I finally get to throw down some paints. I covered everything into black prime, and then I started out with some fur brown. This color has a lot of red in it. I want to keep this army bright. Then I gave everything a zenithal prime of yellow. This color is pretty saturated, but over the red, it's going to desaturate into tan. This 1-2 punch is giving me an idea. Maybe not green for these Crruit. I mixed up some bony matter speed paint and put this over the whole body. And while that speed paint was still wet, I put red speed paint onto his feet and hands, working quick to blend these colors together. That'll be my first test, and now I want to try something, doing some value sketching before the speed paint. I took a bright tan and painted the muscles and details, and then gave him the same speed paint treatment. Looking at these two tries together, the value sketch does do a little something. It helps keep the colors bright. The feet could use a little more red though. I thinned the red too much on the first try, but these are test minis. I'm here to learn. I did some more highlights of the light tan color, hitting the top parts of the muscles, and now to lay in some more colors. I put black speed paint over his quills and over his Crruit rifle and on his little shoulder pad. It wouldn't be a 40k model without a shoulder pad. And I still felt like the red appendages weren't looking quite right, so I mixed up a pink red and glazed this over their toesies. Now for the leather, and I went back and forth on the leather. I decided on a saturated orange color, so the leather won't be too far away from their skin color, so that the focal point of the mini will be on their rifles and skin. To shade this orange color, I glazed some brown over top, and then mixed it with my tan color to do some quick edge highlights. Now to finish off that gun, I want to keep my steps simple since I'm gonna have to do this a lot. A dry brushing of dark gray, another smaller dry brushing of a gray color on the rifles, and then a dusting of tan on the quills. And then for the sauce. Turbo Dork Tin Star. This is the brightest silver paint I have ever seen. I tried this out with the dry brushing, which didn't leave behind enough silver. I switched to a sponging, and this worked really well, giving me lovely ultra bright paint chips. This is a really good high impact step. It takes only a couple of seconds a mini, and it's very striking. I think I've really got something here. I've got some Crruit. I've got the angriest chicken boys, and you were here the whole time watching me, for sure.
Staring.
But I ended up doing a very kind of desert to go along with the bases. I wasn't sure. I saw a really cool blue and an Adepticon. Green Crruit are classic, but I kind of like these desert boys.
Were you inspired by Scott's Dark Eldar?
No. I put a reddish brown and then a yellow, and that kind of did it for me. Like immediately after that, I'm like, okay, those are the colors that I am going to use. I don't know if every Crruit will always be painted tan. I do have to do a 20-man squad, and I kind of want to make them blue so that they're the blue man group, but I'm pretty happy with tan. And I see you finished putting together some Noise Marines, Infractors, and the Lord Mr. Man himself.
These are actually just one squad of Noise Marines and the Lord himself. So these are all Noise Marines.
All right, we got to pick some colors. Did you bring your paints and brushes?
I thought you might have some.
No, I don't have any. Not for you.
Okay, I gotta go home then.
To figure out my paint scheme, I'm going to start with these Noise Marines. The book colors are pretty good. There's some fun alt colors in this codex. I love this white scheme. I might save that for my flawless blades, but for now, I want to figure out the classic pink and black. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to do 2 Noise Marines and the Lord. By the end of that, hopefully I'll know how to paint up all my Emperor's Children. After a black prime, Jay suggested doing dry brushing of dark grays. This made the primer look more real, like they're supposed to be black. Then came the pain, colors over the black. We used bright neutral gray to base coat the white parts. This covered in about 3 layers, and then 3 layers of white on top to get the guns looking good. Jay was helping with the colors, and after the white, he put aside his Crruit to help with my Marines. The next color up was gold. We started with a dark gold, putting this on every bit of trim all over these models. These guys are absolutely covered with trim. After the dark gold, you put on this bright, shiny gold. The whole process took a long time.
Sean, why did you pick Chaos Space Marines? Because there's a lot of trim. You could have picked Necrons, and we could be done by now.
Yeah, but I like Emperor's Children more than Necrons.
Although I was pretty worried that I would be painting my army forever, and you would be done, because I'm going to have to paint 5 Crruit for every one of your Space Marines. But actually, I think these guys are going to take just as long. If I finish 5 Crruit a week for the next 14 weeks, I'll have all the Crruit I need for my army.
And if I paint 1 Space Marine a week for the next 14 weeks, I'll have more than enough for my Emperor's Children. Actually, that's not even true, because that's 14 Space Marines.
That's not enough. That's not enough. After the gold, we switched to pink, and the tricky thing is getting colors over top of black. But there are some tricks. Sean showed me where to put the pink, and I put down a layer, and it didn't really fully cover, but that's fine, because I can use this to get a gradient going. I put on a second coat of pink, covering less of the area, making the highest spots brighter and more saturated, and leaving the recesses a dark purple. And I did a final layer of this pink, making the topmost areas pure saturated pink. But this wouldn't be the final pink. So that's 3 layers of pink, and it's pretty pink, but it's not that pink. And you know why?
Why?
Because it's this pink. Crack that open.
Oh my God.
Isn't that upsettingly pink?
That is very pink. Just keep this in your pocket all day?
You're gonna drip pink all over the table. The camera doesn't do this paint justice. It is upsettingly pink. I did 3 more layers of this over the upmost parts of the pink, and it took the pink from a pretty pink to a diabolical pink.
Emperor's Children are the Legion of Excess, and I'm feeling that with how many layers you need to put to cover this black up.
In a few places, the pink has hidden some of the details, and an easy way to get those back is a wash. I thinned down some purple speed paint and put this over the pink to shade the recesses. Then we tackled the green parts, giving them a classic neon green glow. We started out base coating these with a mid-tone green color, and then taking that color and mixing it with a fluorescent green, painting this on in a smaller stripe in the middle of each tube. Then another layer of a lighter mixture, and then an even smaller line of mostly neon green paint, and I finished all off with a tiny bit of yellow paint over the green. This yellow will look like an ultra vibrant green. On the front of the Sonic Blasters, we glazed the neon green color, which fills in all the little holes, and we put red paint over the tassels and ponytails. This is ripped straight out of Dawn of War Unification mod, although my copy still says Ultimate Apocalypse mod, because something went wrong when Sean was downloading it to my computer. Painting colors over black, most fun you ever had in your life?
I wouldn't say that.
New experience, right?
Yeah, that's fun. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm lucky. Your guy ended up with a lot more decoration than my guy. My guy's nice and simple.
Yeah, and that's the reason I was slower.
I think we landed on a pretty interesting color scheme. I don't know if it's the world's most doable color scheme, but I don't know if Emperor's Children are the most doable army. These guys are hard.
I would definitely less pink on the rest of them for me, for sure. That was definitely a mistake, but he's special, so I'm not sad.
Well, I'm not gonna see you tomorrow, but if I load you up with the paints, you think you'd have something else done on Thursday?
I'm gonna try. I'll see where I land, and I'm gonna try.
The next project for me was the Krootx. The Krootx are actually just Kroot, who ate one too many quadrupeds and have metamorphosized into hulking beasts, but are still valuable parts of the family. I started out doing my tan value sketch, hitting the muscles, and I want to try a different color with the big boys. I put a dark blue speed paint onto my palette and the red I used on the hands and feet and slobbered this over the mini. I worked fast so I could blend the red and blue together, and while the paint was still wet, I decided in the moment to put the color on the belly too. Nick suggested to give him a red baboon butt, which ended up looking pretty good. I like this color a lot, but it got dark. I think it needed to get this dark because if I thinned it more, the red and tan would show through, turning it green, so now I have the darkest color and I want to get some highlights onto it. I put a dark blue-green onto my palette and mixed it with some of my Crruit tan to give me some bright colors to highlight these muscles with. Starting off with a lot of dark blue, then painting on smaller and smaller lines of lighter blue, ending it really light blue. I ended up having to paint a lot, but it still went pretty quick and let me spend some quality time on the face, getting him appropriately grumpy. I used my brightest blues on his face. These two blues, the navy speed paint and the dark green blue, are the only new colors I'm adding to my Crruit recipe. Now I can leverage all my Crruit carnivore colors. I used the orange from my leather to base coat the big back armor, doing a little dry brushing of tan and then washing it with a brown wash. I threw this over his arm wraps as well, putting it right over the base coat. Then I painted the rider exactly like my original Crruities. I hit the big ol' repeater cannon, which is one of the most powerful Crruit weapons, at strength 7 with some black speed paint, hitting it with the same dark gray dry brushing I did for my Crruit rifles. I hit the leather armor with the dry brushing of my orange leather mixed with tan, and while it was on my brush, I threw it onto the hand wraps too. Then I sponged on my Turbo Dork Ultra Silver. I am in love with this color. I already went back to my local shop to get the gold version of this color, and now I have another Crruit under my belt. I snapped these guys off their paint handles and got them situated on their bases. The overspray from base coating looks pretty good already, and I bought some new stuff that should make basing a breeze. Sean, you're back just in time. I finished two Ktox Riders. And these two guys combined are still cheaper to take in game than your one Lord.
Yeah.
He's what, 70 points?
70 points to 60?
Yeah, these two guys are 60 points. All told, this entire collection of minis I've got, the 5 and the 2, I think is 95.25 points.
Mm-hmm. He's 70. I believe those are like 21, 22-ish a piece, so 110-ish.
I had to paint so many more guys. On my Ktox Riders, I figured out doing blue for the big Crruit boys, and I think I'm gonna keep that going. I don't know if I'm gonna do it for the Rampagers, but definitely for all of my Riders. And your little Lord, he's got the same gun as these guys.
I'm thinking
it's pretty spicy.
Yeah, I'm thinking to do purple on all the capes and the back sigil and thing, just because he's the Lord, so he's gotta be special. I think that's a good extra color for him.
Yeah, we can make that happen. We tried out purple on the cloth, and then we tried white to see what it would look like, and Sean picked white. This was really hard to do everywhere except for the back of the cape. We were able to mask off the marine with silly putty and hit the back with a few puffs of white paint from the airbrush, but the front was just layers and layers and layers of white paint. This meant that the back looked airbrush flawless and the front looked like base coat white, but we can sneakily work the airbrush gradient into the front as well. I thinned down some gray speed paint and put this through the airbrush, putting this right over his front, and it was enough pigment to show up on the white, but not enough to cover any of the pink, black, or gold. I sprayed this from underneath onto all the white to get it looking regal and royal. Now for that flesh. For this, I showed Sean the power of glazing. We put this over his knee and then glazed red in the recesses, putting it on and then coming back with a clean brush to feather it out. We did the same thing in reverse with a light tan color, highlighting the flesh rivets a little, and when it was done, I think it looks better than the boring gray skin from the Codex. For this chaos symbol, Sean wanted a metallic purple, and it's really easy to make metallic colors, just mixing transparent speed paints into silver. I made up 3 batches of color, a silver with a little bit of purple, equal purple and silver, and a lot of purple with just a little bit of silver. Sean sponged these on in 3 layers, making a gradient from dark chaos metal to light chaos metal. Now that's a finished Lord, ready to lose horribly against my Crruit. I think the Lord turned out pretty good.
I think so.
We got some incredibly fancy dudes versus some incredibly plain earthy dudes. 100 points versus 100 points. But now it's time for the bases, and I am really excited for the bases. I bought a whole bunch of stuff. When I'm trying to come up with basing schemes for my armies, I try to figure out something that only takes a few seconds, because that's as long as I can be bothered to do it for 100 times, but something impactful. I think your bases are gonna be pretty impactful.
I mean, they're gonna be quick.
On my bases, I want them as speedy as possible. How lazy can I be while still looking good? I used my airbrush to snipe dark green onto the epic basing cactuses, and from above, I used a cuttlefish color's lime green, giving them a little puff from above. Now onto the earth, and for that, I have Enamels. I've tinkered around with Enamels before, but I've never really gone for it. I looked at my colors, and there's something to this dark orange. I loaded up a brush and put this over the earth. While it was still wet, I put some dark umber, and it flowed into the cracks, but it's hard to know what it's gonna look like while it's still wet. Once it was dry, I compared it to the original base, and it definitely bumped up the colors. I want to see if I can push it even further. I mixed up some bright orange and thinned it down a lot and put this over the base. While that was drying, I covered the rest of the bases in a mix of orange and brown. This will be my base coat that the slobber of orange goes on top of. Once the orange dries, it sticks around in the recesses and in between the sand. This alien planet must have a lot of iron in its dirt to make all this rust. The enamel paint flows really easily, and although there was some trial and error that took a little bit of time, these bases only take a few minutes each to pull off.
For my army, I went a different route. While Jay had to build all those custom bases for all 200 Crruit in his giant horde army, I found these base toppers that already look like the base I was picturing. After giving the bottoms a good sand, they glued right down to the bases, and I'm already done building. Moving along to the painting, we started with a black prime, and Jay showed me how to do a nice marbling effect. I want a green marble, which will go along with the green on these guns. We base coated the bases in a dark green. For the marbling, you need to take a Clorox wet wipe, let it dry out, then pull on it so the fibers start to break apart, but before it rips totally. Hold this up against the base, and then airbrush through it. It works best when you can really get it tight against the base. What we came up with was Jay would hold down the wipe while I airbrushed the green on top. We did a layer of lighter green after that, and then a final layer of white paint. These 3 colors make a pretty good green marble. Jay then lent me Nick's black enamel panel liner for the last step. I dripped this into the cracks and the lettering. The Lord has a tactical rock that is also some destroyed rubble, and after quickly throwing those colors onto the base, he could get glued. The only trouble was getting their feet to properly stick to the base. Because there's some texture, we put some milliput between their feet, so that there was some squish and the super glue would have more material to grip onto. It's not a speed competition, but my bases took less than half the time Jay's look, and I think they look amazing.
While Sean was painting his base rims black, I decided to go for brown. My army is natural, and I want to keep that going on the base rims. That is some finished models. It always takes a long time starting out. Although it hasn't been that bad. 4 days.
It was 3 days. 3 days to get all this done. Yeah, I mean, the Lord Exultan, that was just 6 hours, about more or less for half of it, and then the other half was 4 hours today. So pretty good timing on that for a hero character. I'm happy.
Yeah, and then they'll get faster and faster and faster. I got 5 Krruts and 2 big boys, and I already have plenty of ideas for order of operation of how I can get those numbers down even further. I think my next step is going to be, I'm gonna do exactly this again. I'm gonna do another 5 Kroot and another 2 Gnarlock Riders.
I have to finish my Noise Marine squad. They're looking pretty lonely without the leader. But once that's done, that's a fifth of a 1,000-point army. So yeah. I'm happy.
If I finish everything I want to, it won't be much.
It'll be something.
Crruit are a horde army. Do you know what detachment I'm running?
The Crruit.
Mont Ka.
Oh, you're running the Tau one?
No, I'm running Crruit hunting pack. I've been reading a lot of tournament Crruit lists, watching a lot of YouTube tactics videos. I am really excited to be running some Crruit stronger than you would think.
Yeah, I know. We've played some test games on TTS, and they've kicked my ass a couple times. So they've got something going for them.
Crruit might be my army.
I definitely learned my lesson with the pink on the first one I painted. He's too pink. We're gonna call him Mr. But I definitely like how he's looking, and obviously the one you did. That's the perfect amount of pink to black.
Perfect amount of pink?
But I'm also loving the bases, so I'm glad that turned out really well too.
So you're gonna go buy a bunch of pinks so that you don't have to borrow my pinks?
Yeah. Well, now I know my paint scheme.
All right, this is the start of something big. How long do you think? How long do you think until we both have finished 2,000-point armies?
A few months.
Few months? A few, like 2 or 3, or a few months, like 6?
We'll see. See.
I bet we can be like entering these armies in a tournament 6 months. 6 or 7 months.
I'm gonna need to go buy more Emperor's Children in that case then.
Let us know in the comments below, which army do you prefer? Who are you rooting for, the Crruit or the Emperor's Children? The gross, disgusting, chaos Emperor's Children.
I think they're beautiful.
Thanks for watching.